Hello everybody! We are back for our second week of the Great Pandemic Baking Challenge. If you missed last week, we made angel food cake, and today we are going to be making English muffins. This was the week 2 technical challenge in the Great British Bake Off. This is Paul Hollywood's recipe. Also, please remember to subscribe to my channel so that you can always receive updates of when we put out a new episode, which we are trying to do weekly. All right, so English muffins are gonna happen today. I've already measured out all of my ingredients. Here is flour. He calls for bread flour. However, we're on a flour shortage. So what I've done is taken all-purpose flour and added wheat gluten to it in order to make bread flour. So I'm just mixing it up all together. And then here we have our active dry yeast, salt, sugar, butter, egg, milk, and cornmeal. All right, so the first thing it says to do is to tip the flour into a large mixing bowl. Put the yeast on one side of the flour, salt on the other side, then add the sugar, softened butter, cut into small pieces as it's specified. Oh, now it's sticking all over my fingers. So, recipe's not getting all the butter. We do what we can here. So it said to use a medium egg. I only had large eggs, luckily, because this is a UK recipe, they give grams. So it said about 22.5 grams. So my egg was about 50 and I just got rid of about half the egg. And milk. All right. So it occurred to me that maybe I should have warmed up the milk a little bit. Too late now. Hopefully my yeast will still get activated and rise. We'll see. All right, so we're turning on the mixer and beating it for about 10 minutes. So per Paul Hollywood's instructions, after it's all incorporated, we're actually going to knead it on a floured surface. All right, so as I was reading the instructions while the mixer was going, it actually said to knead by hand. So I am going to do that. I like using a pastry cloth, because then I don't get whatever's on the counters on my baking and it doesn't stick and I can flour it. And also it really prevents it from over flouring because all the flour goes into the crevices. The one downside of pastry cloth is that it really moves around quite a bit. I'm sure there's a way to make sure this doesn't happen. I bet those silicone surfaces would help. Clearly, I am the most prepared baker ever. How much research do you do for each one of these episodes, Rachel? None, actually. I look up a recipe and then I buy some ingredients, some of which I forget to buy and I have to make it up, and some of which just doesn't exist in the world, like flour. And then I just kind of use whatever comes up. Like later, we need a cookie cutter. I don't have one. We're gonna see how that works. This is us in the apocalypse. So you're using whatever ingredients and tools are at your disposal. So basically I'm going with this until it's soft, smooth, and stretchy, which means that the gluten has formed, which is gonna give us those nice air bubbles and make it nice and soft on the inside. I've only made bread a couple of times in my whole life, and only once did it actually turn out okay. Paul Hollywood would be very disappointed with my bread bakes. Usually, it's kind of dense. But I tell you, if I keep doing this, I'm gonna have really good arms. Just bake bread. That's all you need to do. No gym. Just bake bread. This is basically baking torture day for John because he's going through 2 weeks of not eating any wheat or gluten. That sucks. I'm so tired. The entire world's gonna see how pathetic I am. Paul this. I'm so sorry. But if you want to invite me to be on your show, I'd be happy to come to England. I've been kneading it for like 13 minutes. It's more exercise than I get in a day. Oh man, respect to all the bread bakers out there. Whew. Give me a minute. Okay. Maybe you should be glad that you're not eating this one. You know, we have no idea how this is going to turn out. Maybe I should have watched Paul Hollywood's video on kneading earlier. Shows me for not doing research. I'm going to blame it on this pastry cloth. See. Alright, so as it turns out, not having a moving surface under the kneading is very important. Alright, I'm going to say that is soft, smooth, and stretchy. So it says to take a large greased bowl and place the dough inside to prove for about an hour or until doubled in size. So you want to have a little extra room with the saran wrap because as it rises, the yeast will give off some gas and it will push it up. And since we don't have a proving drawer, what I'm going to do is actually stick it in our oven, which is a gas oven, so it has a pilot light, which should give off just enough heat to keep this sucker warm. All right, see you in an hour. So the oven wasn't quite warm enough to be a proving drawer. So what I did was turned it on at the lowest temperature just for a couple of minutes to get it warm. And to increase the humidity, I boiled some water and I'm putting it in this and I'm going to put it in the oven underneath to maintain the temperature and give it that humidity that will help it rise. I mean, it looks like a mound about this big. It's definitely not twice the size that it was. I don't know. It doesn't look like it's rising. So it's been in the oven proving for a little over half an hour and it hasn't risen much. So I'm going to just make another batch while it's finishing up proving, and that way we have a backup. So I think this is actually already feeling better. It's a little bit sticky, which I believe is the way a fresh dough is supposed to feel, and as you knead it longer, it gets smoother and the stickiness starts to go away. So I guess I'm getting 2 workouts in today. I'm gonna be very sore tomorrow. It took a longer time than expected to double its original size. It actually took a little over 2 hours. But when I poke it, it doesn't come back up immediately, which tells me that it is proved enough. So we are dumping this onto a mixture of all-purpose flour and cornmeal because I didn't have any actual polenta or semolina flour. So what we are doing is we're gonna roll it out to about 2.5 centimeters thick, which is about ½ an inch, right? An inch? 1 inch, yep. How many of these is it supposed to make? 8. Nope. I don't even know how that becomes 8 muffins. You think English muffins can be square? In a pandemic, people are really just lucky to have English muffins. They don't really care what shape they are. Okay, so what I do now is I'm taking pre-dusted baking trays. It has the cornmeal over it, and I am putting 4 muffins on each tray, and then dust the remaining cornmeal over the top and allow to prove for another 30 minutes. That doesn't stick.
We used to prove things with garbage bags. Who's the smarty pants now?
My fiance. Perfect. All right, so we're gonna leave those for about half an hour. Since it's a little cold, we might need to leave them a little bit longer. It seemed to take about twice as long for it to prove the first time. It might actually be an hour. So I'll let you know when we come back. So the recipe said to roll the dough out to about 1 inch in height, so I just cut this one into 4 instead. It'll just be a nice experiment to see how they each turn out a little bit differently. It's risen again. They've grown quite a lot, and we're gonna start cooking the first batch. They're gonna be cooking for 5 to 6 minutes per side on a low heat. I have it on 3 on my stove, about 2.5, 3. I have 2 pans going to make sure that it doesn't take all night. I'm not entirely sure what's supposed to be happening because they look a little flatter than I'm used to my English muffins looking. I don't know how to tell if these are done on the inside. That's usually what the bottoms of English muffins look like. Cool. Let's see. Whew. Hey, that looks like bread. All right, let's get the rest of them off. It smells like an English muffin. It bounces back, so that means it's fully baked, I think. You can actually kind of taste the butter in them. That's a really nice texture. I'm kind of proud of myself, actually, especially since I thought I screwed this one up. Sucks you can't eat this. Womp womp. Here is our plate of beautiful English muffins. We have our regular human-sized English muffins and our manhole cover-sized English muffins. These would be very good to use with burgers, an extra large egg and cheese sandwich in the morning. I'm sure there are lots of uses for this. And also these are great. So here you go. Have a great evening or morning. So that is our episode for today. Thank you for joining us for the English muffins. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to make sure you get all the updates, and we look forward to seeing you next week. I did not think this was going to turn out.